Hi. Have you noticed the real magic happens outside your comfort zone? Have you ever looked at your life and thought, when exactly did I stop doing the things that lit me up? Not the responsible things, not the practical things, not the things everybody expects of you. I mean, the things that made you feel alive, that made you lose track of time, the things that your soul whispers to you at 2 in the morning and won't let you sleep. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Second Bloom Studio. I'm so glad you found your way here today. This channel is a space for women 55 and older, give or take, who are starting over, waking up, rediscovering themselves, learning how to live more creatively, more spiritually, and more authentically a second time around. And today I want to talk about something that changed my life, choosing to live creatively. Not just painting and making art, which I love, but living creatively. And there's a difference. For most of my life, I did what many women do. I worked and I cared for others. I raised our kids. I maintained a home and I checked all those boxes. And there's a beauty in that. It's very important. But beneath it all, I kept thinking, is that all there is? When do I get to become who I really am? Who am I? What happened to the girl who loved creating things? Can you relate? Well, if you can, type the word awakening in the comments and let me know how this happened for you, how this all came to be your life too. Because sometimes the first step is simply admitting to ourselves that something inside us wants more. Not more stuff, more aliveness. Yeah.
You know, I've always been creative. When I was about 4 years old, I remember hand sewing this fancy blue felt gown for my Barbie doll with fringe around the bottom. And at 7, I was making doll furniture out of tin cans. Yes, actual tin cans. Cutting them into strips and twisting them into little like wicker style chairs. I probably needed a tetanus shot and better supervision, but I loved it. I wasn't worried about whether it was good, and I wasn't worried about being talented. I just immersed myself in the joy of making something. And isn't that wonderful? Children, they create naturally. They don't ask permission. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned how to become really self-conscious instead of self-expressed. And that shift, it really changes everything. As I got older, creativity slowly became something I squeezed into the corners of life. I looked to things that would support me and not sustain me. I studied graphic design in college, and then I worked in corporate marketing doing graphic design, and then eventually I went into freelance for years. And while that gave me freedom, I really felt disconnected from something deeper, because creativity isn't just about productivity, it's about connection. Connection to the best inspired self, connection to the spirit, connection to life itself, to what moves you. And I think many women lose that connection because we become caretakers of everyone else in our lives and expectations and, caretakers to our own security. We become experts at putting our dreams last. If that's you, drop a note in the comments on the dream that maybe you left behind and let us know how that fell away and how did it make you feel. How many times have you abandoned yourself while trying to be good for everyone else? Did it become your default pattern? Yeah, I think it became mine for a really, really long time.
So this default pattern was prominent in my life, and I realized looking back that I spent my entire life going from one long-term relationship to another. I had a 7-year relationship that spanned from high school through part of college, and then I jumped into another 2-year relationship, and then when that ended, I got into another 2-year relationship, and then I met and married my first husband. After 7 years, we ended up separating and getting divorced, and I had this brief window of freedom, and something inside me wanted to paint. And I bought the easel and I bought the brushes and I bought the big tubes of oil paint. And I wanted so badly to become an artist and to paint. But you know what I did instead? I got into another relationship again. And looking back now, I realized something important. I never gave myself enough space to discover who I was outside of being needed by somebody else. Wow, that realization hit me hard later in life. I could see that I was looking for safety through an outside relationship instead of learning about me. How many times have we rushed to fill an empty space in our life because being alone with ourselves felt uncomfortable? But sometimes those empty spaces are sacred. Sometimes they're invitations to evolve. Years later, as a mom raising 2 kids, a new friend invited me to go plein air painting with her. I didn't really know what that was then. I knew it was painting outside, but I didn't really know. And you know what I said? I said no, not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid. I was afraid of looking foolish. I was afraid of not knowing enough or being good enough. I was afraid of being a beginner. I think this is where so many dreams die because we become terrified of being seen learning, especially later in life. But let me tell you something that age has finally taught me. Your comfort zone is not where your soul expands. The magic is outside your comfort zone. The magic's in the trying. The magic is in being willing to make terrible first attempts. And honestly, some of my early works, my early paintings were just simply awful. And thank goodness for that, because awful beginnings are still beginnings. Eventually, when my children were teenagers, I cleared out a space in our attic and created a small painting studio. It wasn't glamorous. It was cold in the winter and hot in the summer, but it was mine, and something shifted in me. And by then, I was in my 50s, and honestly, I cared a lot less about whether people approved of me. That is one of the gifts of this season of life. You begin realizing this is my life. This isn't a dress rehearsal, and if I don't start now, then when? How long is your yardstick? How much time do you have? So I started painting, messy paintings, experimental paintings, fearful paintings, but I kept going and I watched YouTube videos. I learned a lot from other artists, especially online. I practiced, and over time, something beautiful happened. I stopped asking myself permission to call myself an artist. I just simply became one. This is what happens when you take yourself seriously. Eventually, I began submitting my work to galleries. I had a solo exhibition. I participated in lots of art fairs in my region throughout the Pacific Northwest, and I built a website and sold originals and prints. But honestly, the greatest transformation wasn't external, it was internal. Because for the first time in my life, I was taking my own soul seriously. I think many women spend decades waiting for someone else to give them permission to do what they want to do, someone to validate them before they fully step into themselves. But there comes a moment, especially after 55, when something inside says, no more waiting. And that moment is sacred. That moment is now. We've got to step into who we are and what we want to be. I truly believe creativity is spiritual. Whether you call it God, Source, the universe, divine intelligence, Jesus, Krishna, light, that creative force lives inside you too. Your desires are not random. The things you feel drawn toward, art, music, gardening, photography, dance, pottery, healing, teaching, all those things matter. They're you. Your soul is always trying to guide you towards expansion, toward expression, toward your truest self. And here's what I've learned. When you create from the heart, it doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like alignment. Your best work often feels like your best life. So today, I want to invite you into something, not perfection, not performance, exploration. What if this next chapter in your life became the chapter where you finally gave yourself permission? Permission to try, permission to fail, permission to be messy, permission to begin again and again and again. What interests have you ignored for years? Your dreams keep tapping you on the shoulder. I would genuinely love to know what your dreams are. Please share with me. Share with all of us. If my fears disappeared completely, what would I begin? What would I do? Where would my creativity take me? Share that in the comments with me. Your willingness to share might just be the inspiration someone else needs to hear. There's people watching and reading, and they like to know they're not alone. And I like to know I'm not alone too. I'd love to hear from you. So, delightful community. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this video spoke to your heart, please subscribe and join our beautiful growing community of women choosing to live more creatively, spiritually, and authentically. And remember this, you're not too old, you're not behind, and your creative spirit is not gone. You may simply be waiting for your attention again. Give yourself a gift of exploring who you really are. The world needs to know what only you can create. They want to see what you have to give. I'm sending you all my love and gratitude. And until the next time, go make something beautiful with your life. And come back and tell me about it. Thanks. Namaste.